The ship shook hard as Leo gripped the edge of the control panel. Red lights flashed across the walls and sirens wailed through the hall. Outside the viewing screen, a massive Zarelian warship hovered like a shadow, its dark silver hull shaped like a blade in space. Emergency override not working, Leo muttered. He tried to reroute power to the engines, but it was too late. A flash of blue light hit his small scout ship and everything went black. When he opened his eyes, he wasn't on his ship anymore. The ceiling above him was smooth, white, and curved, too clean to be human design. The air was thick with a strange perfume-like scent, and the surface under him felt soft and warm like memory foam. Leo tried to sit up, but his wrists were lightly bound by glowing cuffs. "Where am I?" he said, blinking. A tall figure stepped forward. She was not human. Her skin had a smooth, pale violet hue, and her long silver hair shimmered as if it carried starlight within it. She had sharp, almond-shaped eyes that watched him closely, eyes filled with power and pride. "I am Princess Kaelira of the Zarelian Dominion," she said, voice calm and royal. "You are now my responsibility." Leo frowned. "Responsibility? You mean prisoner?" Kaelira tilted her head. "Your people attacked a trade lane protected by our empire. By Zarelian law, you are now in my custody. But I did not bring you here for punishment, human. I brought you here for purpose." Leo sat up straighter. "What purpose?" She raised a hand and the cuffs disappeared in a soft hum. "You are not like the others. Our scans show you carry strong, adaptable DNA. You will remain with me until you give me an heir." Leo blinked. "Excuse me?" "You heard me correctly," Kaelira said. "Once the child is born and healthy, we will discuss your return to Earth. Until then, you are mine." Leo was given a luxurious room, not a prison cell. The walls shifted colors with his mood, soft music played in the background, and the bed was made of the finest materials. Every meal was carefully prepared by a team of attendants. But it didn't feel like freedom. He wandered around the space trying to find hidden cameras. Every corner felt watched, yet no one followed him directly. He couldn't believe what was happening. One moment, he was on a scouting mission near the border. The next, he was being told he had to give an heir to an alien princess just to earn his way home. That night, a servant came and informed him he was to dine with the princess. He considered refusing. But if he was going to find a way out of this place or outsmart Kaelira, he needed information. The dining hall looked more like a throne room. Tall pillars shaped like flowers lined the walls. A giant transparent dome above showed the stars, shining beyond. Kaelira sat at the far end of a long table, wearing a silver and dark blue gown that glowed faintly with embedded crystals. She looked like a queen carved from moonlight. "You came," she said with a small smile. "I wasn't sure if you'd accept." Leo sat across from her. "I don't have many options, do I?" "You always have a choice. But understand, this is not punishment. This is necessity." He raised an eyebrow. "Necessity? You have to kidnap strangers from other worlds just to have children?" Kaelira's face stayed calm, but her voice had a softer tone now. "Our species is dying, Leo. A genetic plague long ago wiped out most of our male population. The few that remain are unable to carry the royal bloodline forward. So, you tested my DNA? We scanned it during your capture. You have qualities we've never seen before. Your genes are flexible, your mind sharp, and your will stubborn." Leo crossed his arms. "You want my genes, but you can't take my freedom." Kaelira looked at him for a long time. Then she stood and walked to the window, her back facing him. "We've tried everything. Cloning, cross-species bonding, artificial wombs. Nothing lasts. We need real life. Real balance." Leo stared at her. She didn't sound like a monster now. She sounded tired, but he couldn't let that distract him. "I'm not going to be part of some royal breeding plan," he said. "If you want my help, we do this my way. No tricks, no traps, Kalira turned around, a spark of amusement in her eyes. You negotiate well for a human. Fine. Tell me your terms. Leo started working on a plan. If he was stuck here, he might as well learn everything he could about their systems, their rules, their technology. He began asking questions about the layout of the ship, about their communication methods, about the Zarelian ruling council. To his surprise, Kalira didn't stop him. In fact, she seemed to enjoy the challenge. You're not like other males I've known, she said during one of their walks through the palace gardens. That's because I'm not yours, Leo replied sharply. And I won't be. Kalira didn't react with anger. She only nodded as if she respected his strength. Perhaps not, but you're here, and I think over time you'll understand why. Leo didn't answer. His mind was already forming 100 escape routes, but something inside him whispered a warning. Maybe she wasn't the only one being changed by this strange arrangement. By the end of the first week, Leo had spoken with several attendants, learned 2 escape points on the upper deck, and quietly reprogrammed the door panel of his room to open from the inside. But as he looked out through the glass at the stars that night, something made him pause. He remembered Kalira's voice when she spoke of her people, of the coming end. And for the first time he wondered, was there more to this than power and control? Was she just as trapped by her duties as he was by her demand? Whatever the truth was, Leo swore one thing to himself before sleep. He would find a way out, but he would also find the truth, and maybe, just maybe, he'd find out what it truly meant to be free. Leo stood by the wide window in his chamber, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the stars outside. The Zarelian ship drifted silently through space, far from Earth, far from home. Though his room felt more like a hotel suite than a prison, Leo knew the truth. He was still not free. Each day he learned something new. Zarelian ships didn't run on fuel like Earth's. They used crystal-powered cores connected to neural systems, machines that responded to thought and emotion. He studied everything: hallway patterns, guard shifts, control panels. If escape became possible, he needed to be ready. But something else kept happening, something he didn't expect. Princess Kalira kept speaking to him, not as a ruler, but as a curious mind. They would meet over dinner or during garden walks, discussing history, language, even philosophy. She asked about Earth's cultures, how humans handled war, peace, family, love. He answered honestly, but always guarded. He couldn't forget she had taken him from his world. Still, each time she listened with deep interest, sometimes even smiling at his sarcasm. You Earth people have a strange way of bonding through jokes, she told him once. It helps us stay sane when we're stuck in giant alien ships. He replied. She had laughed. Just once. But it stayed with him. One afternoon, Leo was invited to attend a royal council meeting. He almost refused, but curiosity got the better of him. 2 guards led him through the spiral corridors until they entered a grand circular room, with floating seats made of polished glass and golden threads of energy. Kalira sat in the center throne, her posture straight, her expression calm. Around her were other Zarelian nobles, mostly women of high rank dressed in long, elegant robes, each one radiating authority. This is the human? One of them asked sharply. Kalira nodded. His name is Leo. He will be present as my guest. Leo stood tall, trying not to show discomfort. The nobles whispered among themselves, some in disagreement, others in interest. Why is a male present? In royal matters? Another noblewoman questioned. Kalira raised a hand. Because this male has shown he is not weak. He saved data from a crashing scout ship with no backup, survived capture, and has refused to bow to me despite pressure. That is more strength than some of our own. Leo blinked. She was defending him? In public? The meeting continued with matters of trade routes, increasing pirate activity on the Outer Rim, and pressure from a rival house, House Veril, who claimed Kalira had no right to rule without a royal child. Leo listened closely. That rival house wasn't just a threat, it was a danger to both Kalira and her people. Without a child, her rule might be challenged or worse, overthrown. After the meeting, Heir walked beside Leo silently through the corridor. "You protected me in there," he said. "You protected yourself," she replied. "They won't see you as property now. They will see you as something more valuable, an ally." "I'm not your ally." "You could be." Leo stopped walking. "Why are you doing this? You said I was here to give you an heir. Now you want me involved. In politics?" She faced him, her voice low. "My people will not follow a queen who cannot lead us forward. But if they see a strong male by my side, not a weak servant but someone equal, then they will believe. I need you." Leo narrowed his eyes. "You need me to play a role?" Heir met his gaze. "At first, yes. But now, I'm not sure where the role ends and where something real begins." Leo said nothing. Inside, he was conflicted. She was using him, yes, but she was also honest about it. More honest than most leaders he had met in his life. That night, he sat in his room trying to think. If he returned to Earth now, what would he bring back? He had seen their technology, their ships, their weaknesses. But he had also seen their desperation. The Zarelians were not monsters. They were survivors. He remembered a story Heir told him about her mother, the last queen, who tried to negotiate peace with another empire, but was betrayed and poisoned. Since then, Heir had carried that burden alone, forced to rule while still young, while defending her people from threats on all sides. Leo wasn't sure if he respected her or felt sorry for her. The next day, he was invited to a cultural ceremony, one that celebrated unity and bloodlines. Heir wore a ceremonial robe decorated with the symbol of her house, a star wrapped in vines. Leo wore a dark blue robe with a silver belt, Heir's house colors. They stood in front of hundreds of nobles and warriors as a priestess spoke in an ancient language. Then Heir held Leo's hand, just briefly, and announced, "This human has agreed to help preserve the future of our people. He will not be forced. He will choose." Gasps filled the hall. Some were pleased. Others were outraged. But Leo was stunned most of all. She had told everyone he would choose. She had taken away the pressure in front of her own people. That night, he confronted her. "You made me look like a hero," he said. "You are," she replied. "Even if you don't believe it yet. I haven't agreed to anything. I know. But I've decided something," Heir said, standing tall. "If I must lead by force, I'll never have true loyalty. But if I can show a better way, through partnership, not power, then maybe we'll survive this age." Leo looked at her, unsure of what to say. "I'm still angry you brought me here," he finally said. "I understand. But maybe, just maybe, there's more to this than I thought." Heir didn't smile, but her eyes softened. Later that week, news came from the outer sectors. House Veril had sent ships near Heir's border worlds. It was not war yet, but it was a warning. Heir gathered her fleet and prepared defenses. Leo watched from the command deck as the Zarelian warships moved like eagles through space, ready to strike if needed. She turned to him. "You asked why I wanted you involved. Now you see. My enemies believe I'm weak, but with you at my side, they will question everything." Leo replied slowly, "If I do help, if I stay longer, we make a deal." "I'm listening." "You stop treating me like property. You let me speak my mind, and when this is over, when your rule is secure, you give me real freedom." Heir nodded once. Agreed. And for the first time, Leo believed her, not because she had power, but because she was willing to share it. The palace buzzed with tension. For days, the news of House Veril's growing power had shaken the royal halls. Ships were spotted near the outer territories. Zarelian commanders worked night and day, preparing strategies. Every corridor echoed with footsteps and quiet whispers. Leo stood beside a long window in the strategy room, watching the projection of enemy fleet movements. Dozens of red lights blinked across the star map, symbols of ships growing closer. "Heir," stood at the center of the room, her eyes fixed on the map. She wore her command armor now, elegant but strong, made of lightweight silver plates. Her hair was tied back, and her calm voice cut through the tension. If House Verrill crosses the second ring, we intercept. I want no bloodshed, but if they force our hand, we strike with precision. A general stepped forward. And what of the human? Leo raised his eyebrow but said nothing. Kalyra turned toward the question. Leo remains here. He is not a warrior. He is my guest, Leo spoke up. I can help. You said I was part of this now, not on the front lines. I'm an engineer. I've studied your ship systems. Let me assist. Kalyra looked at him for a moment. Then she gave a single nod. Very well. You'll work in defense coordination, but stay within the safe zones. Hours later, Leo was in the central engineering hub, surrounded by holographic controls and nervous technicians. He quickly got to work, analyzing shield frequencies and recalibrating energy flow to improve defense strength. One of the young Zarelian officers looked at him with wide eyes. You really are helping us. Leo gave a half smile. I'm not here to watch the ship burn. Just then an alert flashed. Enemy vessels had crossed the second ring. Kalyra's voice echoed through the comms. All crews prepare for intercept. Shields up, engines to full alert. The ship rumbled gently. Leo stood still, staring at the main screen. Verrill ships had entered the defense zone. War was now seconds away, but the attack didn't come. Instead, a single message was broadcast across all frequencies. From Verrill's leader herself, Lady Talisa. She appeared on the screen, tall, dressed in dark crimson armor, and her voice cold like ice. Kalyra, still without a royal heir, still hiding behind strange allies. Surrender your title, and we will avoid unnecessary damage. Kalyra stood tall, staring into the camera. Zarel does not surrender. Not to you. Not to anyone. Lady Talisa smiled. Then I shall visit your throne personally. The screen went dark. It happened fast. Missile fire. Shield bursts. Shockwaves rippled through the ship as both sides clashed in a small-scale space skirmish. Leo was thrown to the floor as an explosion shook the corridor behind him. Emergency lights came on and smoke filled the hallway. Sirens rang. A plasma fire broke out in the west wing of the ship. Get the fire suppression online, he shouted. He ran toward the nearest panel and activated the backup cooling system manually, burning his hands on the overheated controls. Sparks flew, but the fire slowly died. Then he heard it. Shouting. 2 Zarelian guards had been injured, trapped under debris. Leo rushed over, pulling a broken beam off one of them. Stay with me, he said. As he tried to lift the second one, a door behind him suddenly hissed open. A strange soldier wearing Verrill colors aimed a weapon at Leo. Time slowed. Leo looked up, then Kalyra appeared from the smoke, moving like lightning. She knocked the soldier's weapon away and struck him hard across the helmet with her staff. The enemy collapsed. Kalyra turned to Leo, eyes full of worry. Are you hurt? He shook his head. I'm fine. But your men? She knelt beside the injured guards, her voice calm but fast. We'll get them to medbay. You saved their lives. You saved mine, Leo said softly. They looked at each other, covered in soot and smoke, breaths fast, but alive. In that moment, something changed between them. No words were spoken, but a silent understanding passed between their eyes. This was no longer about deals or bargains. This was survival, side by side. The battle ended an hour later. Verrill's forces retreated, leaving behind damage and tension. No victory celebration followed. Only repairs, healing, and quiet strength. Kalyra called a meeting with her advisors. Leo sat near the back, listening closely. One general said, "They'll return, stronger next time. And they won't stop, unless your rule is unquestioned." Another added, "The nobles whisper already, they say you can't lead without an heir." Kalyra stayed silent. Leo stood up. What if that changed? All eyes turned to him. I'm not saying I agree with your system. he said slowly. But I know what it means to be responsible. If an heir is what your people need to survive, maybe... I'm ready to talk. Kalira's eyes widened, but she said nothing at first. The room fell silent. Then one noble whispered, "The human agrees?" Leo looked directly at Kalira. "I don't agree to being owned. I never will. But I can choose. I choose to help," she nodded once. Then we moved forward, together. Later that evening, they stood in the quiet garden, the stars above calm after the storm of war. "You didn't have to say that," Kalira said softly. "I know, but I meant it. Do you still hate me?" she asked. Leo thought for a moment. "I hated being taken. I hated being treated like a tool. But I've seen you now, not just the princess, but the leader, the protector, the one who fights for others." "I never wanted it to happen this way," Kalira admitted. "But I didn't know how else to save my people." Leo looked at her, seeing more than a royal figure. He saw the weight she carried, the pain behind her choices. "Maybe now," he said, "we write a better path." They stood in silence, the stars above them, and the future finally starting to shift. Not through power, but through choice. Days passed after the battle, but the ship still carried the scent of burned metal and smoke. Engineers worked non-stop. Drones flew around, repairing broken panels and damaged circuits. Wounded soldiers rested in medical bays. The entire vessel felt tired but alive. Leo walked through the central garden again. It was quiet. No guards, no servants, just the soft sound of water flowing through the artificial stream that ran along the path. The plants glowing softly with bioluminescent energy were calm in the stillness. He needed time to think. He had said something important back in that council room, something he couldn't take back. He had agreed to help. But what did that really mean? Was he ready to be part of this empire's future? To help Kalira have an heir? It still felt strange, even now. He sat down on a smooth stone bench. A memory of Earth flashed in his mind. His old home, a small apartment, the city lights, the way the rain would tap softly on his window. He missed it more than he could say, but he didn't regret staying, not anymore. Kalira found him not long after. She walked quietly, wearing a simple robe instead of her usual armor. Her silver hair flowed down her back, and she didn't speak at first. She just sat beside him. For a moment, neither said anything. Then she looked at him and spoke. "Do you know why I chose you?" Leo turned toward her but said nothing. "You were not the strongest. You didn't come from a royal line. You weren't trained in diplomacy or war. But you had something my people lost long ago." "What's that?" "Heart." Leo blinked. "You fought to survive, but not just for yourself. You saved my guards when you didn't have to. You spoke with honesty even when I didn't like what you said. And you're the first being who ever looked at me, not as a princess, but as a person." She looked down for a moment. "I thought I needed control. That only power would protect my people. But maybe what we need is something else." Leo nodded slowly. "I understand. I won't force you," Kalira continued. "If you walk away now, I won't stop you. You'll be taken back to Earth, safely. Your freedom, no conditions." Leo's eyes widened slightly. "What?" "I mean it," she said. "This time the choice is truly yours." Leo leaned back on the bench. His heart beat faster. He could almost feel Earth calling him home. But then he looked at Kalira again. He remembered her fighting through smoke to save him. He remembered the sadness in her eyes when she spoke about her mother. He remembered how, even though she had power, she had chosen to change. For him, and now she was giving him a real choice. "I'm not going anywhere," he said. Kalira looked at him slowly, unsure. "I'm still figuring everything out," Leo admitted. "But you're not alone anymore. You gave me freedom. Now I give you something back, my decision." Her expression softened. A small smile appeared on her face, genuine, warm, and quiet. "Then we begin together," she said. Preparations began the next day. The court buzzed with news. The princess had made her choice. The human would stand beside her, not as a servant, not as a trophy, but as a partner. Most nobles supported it. Some were confused. A few were angry. But none dared challenge her openly now. Heir had survived an attack. She had kept control. And now, she was building a new future. The ceremony was simple but full of meaning. Leo stood beside Heir in the Hall of Harmony. The walls were covered with banners of her house, and a quiet crowd of nobles, scholars, and military officers filled the space. An elder stepped forward, holding a small crystal orb glowing with soft light. "This bond is not about command or control," she said. "It is about purpose and unity. Not only for power, but for peace." She offered the orb to Heir. The princess placed one hand on it. Then she looked at Leo. He hesitated, but only for a second. He placed his hand over hers. The orb glowed brighter. Their bond was witnessed by the Empire. After the ceremony, Leo returned to his room for a moment of silence. Everything had changed, not just around him, but inside him. He no longer felt like a prisoner. He no longer felt like an outsider. He felt chosen, not by force, but by truth. Heir entered quietly, closing the door behind her. "We did it," she said softly. "Yeah," Leo replied. "You still feel unsure?" "Of course," he laughed. "But I also feel like this is where I'm supposed to be." She stepped closer. "You've given me more than an heir. You've given me hope." Leo looked into her eyes. "Then let's not waste it." She reached out and gently took his hand. The next few weeks passed with steady change. Heir invited Leo into daily council meetings. He brought new ideas: Earth-style farming to fix food shortages, flexible solar panels for outer colonies, and advanced coding methods to protect their systems from enemy hacks. At first, the nobles were surprised, but then impressed. He wasn't just a human partner. He was becoming part of Zarel. He walked the halls not as a stranger, but as someone respected. Some still doubted. Some still whispered. But their voices grew quieter each day. And when Heir placed her hand on her stomach and quietly told him the news, "I think it's begun," Leo felt something deep inside shift. He didn't just belong here now, he was building something here. That night, Heir and Leo stood once again in the garden beneath the stars. She looked up at the sky. "You still miss Earth?" "Every day," he said. "But I don't want to go back." "Why not?" "Because here, I have a reason to stay." She turned to him, eyes glowing faintly in the starlight. "Then stay. Not as a prisoner, not even as a partner." She stepped closer. "Stay because you want to." Leo smiled. "I already did." And beneath the stars of a galaxy filled with danger, power, and wonder, a human and an alien princess found something greater than survival. They found choice. They found purpose, and they found each other. The air in the Zarelian palace had changed. It was no longer filled with quiet tension or whispered doubts. Instead, it was filled with something different. Hope. The kind of hope that only grows when something new begins. Something no one expected. Leo walked through the palace halls with calm steps, nodding to the guards who used to treat him like a stranger. Now they stood tall and offered respectful bows. He didn't feel like an outsider anymore. Every day brought new tasks. He helped update the fleet's software systems and advised Heir on new designs for solar-powered stations in distant colonies. Together, they were making the Zarelian Dominion stronger, smarter, more efficient, and open to new ideas. But all of that became small when the news spread across the Empire. Princess Heir was carrying an heir. In the medical bay, Heir sat quietly on the examination bed. A soft light glowed above her as the healer confirmed what they already suspected. "The child is strong," the healer said. "A perfect mix of human and Zarelian genetics. A healthy heartbeat. The first of a new generation." Leo stood beside Kalira, his hand resting on hers. "I didn't know I'd ever feel this way," she whispered. "What way?" "Excited, scared, happy, all at once." He smiled gently. "Now you know what it's like to be human." She laughed, a soft, rare sound that still surprised him every time. News of the coming heir spread fast. Many across the empire celebrated. Some doubted, some protested, but no one could ignore the truth. A new line had begun, one that connected two worlds. Leo and Kalira attended more meetings than ever. Nobles, generals, scientists, and ambassadors wanted answers. What would this new child mean? Would they be ruler? Would the old ways change? Kalira stood in the council room, her voice steady. "This child will not be raised in fear or in chains. They will know both our cultures. They will be strong, kind, and wise, and they will have the freedom to choose their own path." Leo stood beside her and added, "This isn't just about royal blood, it's about unity. A future where humans and Zarelians don't fear each other, but build something greater together." Some of the older nobles didn't speak, but the younger ones clapped. The shift had begun. Months passed quickly. Kalira's stomach grew round with life. She stayed active, working and leading, but Leo made sure she rested more, even if she resisted at times. "You're worse than the medics," she teased. "I take that as a compliment," he replied with a grin. They spent more quiet evenings in the garden now. It became their place of peace. They would talk about names, about the kind of world they wanted for the child, about what scared them and what gave them strength. Leo shared stories from Earth, of childhood, of music, of long walks in the rain. Kalira listened closely, imagining a world so different from her own. "You gave me a new vision," she told him one night. "And you gave me purpose," he said back. Then the day came. It started with a quiet sound in the early morning, a soft call from Kalira's room. Leo was already awake. He rushed to her side as the medics arrived. "It's time," she said, her voice calm but tight. The birth took place in the royal chamber, under the watch of healers and guardians. Outside the room, the entire palace waited in silence. Word had spread throughout the empire. Every starship, station, and city waited for the news. It was long, difficult. Kalira's strength was tested like never before, but Leo never left her side. He held her hand, spoke softly, and stayed strong. And then, a soft cry filled the air. A child, half human, half Zarelian. A baby girl with light purple skin, tiny silver hair, and eyes that shone like stars. Kalira held her gently, tears in her eyes. Leo looked down at the baby, and for the first time in his life he was speechless. "She's perfect," he whispered. The official announcement was made later that day. The palace bells rang. Light displays lit up in the skies of every colony. It was declared a day of rebirth, a new era. "The heir to the throne has arrived," Kalira's voice echoed through the empire. "She is born not of power, but of choice, not of war, but of hope." Leo stood with the baby in his arms as the empire watched through holograms. "This child is proof that we can change," he said, "that even the coldest past can lead to a brighter future." Weeks passed in peace. Kalira took time to recover. Leo spent hours with their daughter, learning how to feed her, hold her, calm her. He had never expected to be a father, especially not like this. One night, while the baby slept in her crib, Kalira sat beside Leo on the balcony. "You remember what I said when we first met?" she asked. "Which part?" He smiled. "The one where you said I belonged to you?" She chuckled. "Yes, that one." Leo nodded. "I remember." "I was wrong," she said softly. "You were never mine, but I'm glad you stayed anyway." He looked at her. "And I'm glad you gave me the choice." They sat quietly together, watching the stars above. Later, Earth sent a message. A diplomatic ship had been dispatched. They wanted to speak, to understand what had happened, to meet the princess, and possibly to open new talks. Kalira looked at Leo. "What do you think?" she asked. "I think it's time." And so, the preparations began. The human ship arrived in orbit 2 weeks later. A meeting was arranged in the Royal Hall. Earth's diplomats walked in with careful steps, unsure what to expect. But when they saw Leo standing beside Kaylira, holding a child, they stopped. "Leo?" one of them asked. "Yeah," he said calmly. "It's me." They looked at Kaylira, then at the baby. "What is going on here?" Leo smiled. "Something amazing. That meeting changed everything. Treaties were discussed, agreements signed, and slowly, the first bridge between Earth and the Zarelian Dominion was built. Not by generals, not by rulers, but by a man and a woman who had once been strangers. Now, they were family. Epilogue years later. A small child ran through the royal gardens laughing, her silver hair dancing in the wind. Kaylira stood beside Leo, watching her. "She's strong," Kaylira said proudly. "She gets that from you," Leo replied. "And clever. That's all me." They both laughed. The child turned and ran toward them. "Mama, Papa, look!" She held a flower in her hand, half blue, half violet, a rare bloom that only grew where two different soils met. Kaylira smiled. "A perfect mix." Leo nodded. "Just like her." And as the sun set over the glowing towers of the palace, the family stood together, not because of duty, not because of tradition, but because they chose to.